Hello there, YouTube. It's your boy B3 back with another kicking graphic novel review. A while back, we looked at Moon Knight, and now we are finally on Moon Knight Volume 2, Too Tough to Die. This is the 2021 to 2023 Moon Knight run from Jed Mackey, something like that. This is such a great Moon Knight run. It actually goes into multiple titles. You have this Moon Knight title, and then you have a title that's just for the mission, and then you get back into Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu. The Fist of Khonshu, I think, is like 6 issues in, not including the 0 issue at the time of recording this, which means it's probably close to a trade, and I can't wait for it, because I am caught up on Moon Knight, if you can believe it. That's right, I'm actually caught up on a comic. Trade-wise, anyway. So let me read you. You're back in a book. How can Mark Spector fight someone no one knows? Out for blood, Moon Knight hits the streets armed with only a name, Zodiac. But sometimes the streets hit back, and Mark, fighting his way through the underworld to answer a question he's barely grasped, had better watch his back. Then, when an unnatural labyrinth swallows up his people, Moon Knight faces an impossible challenge. And as an assassin infiltrates the Midnight Mission, another hidden enemy strikes where Mark is most vulnerable. Attacked on 2 fronts, the Fist of Khonshu is on the defensive. But that's where he's most dangerous. Plus, arrested during the Devil's Reign event, Moon Knight must fight for survival in a high-tech prison filled with the very criminals he helped put away, Rorschach style. Collecting Moon Knight 2021, 7 through 12, and Devil's Reign Moon Knight by Jed Mackey, Alejandro Cappuccio, Federico Savantini, Rachel Rosenberg, and Lee Lowridge, rated T for teen from Marvel, but it is pretty brutal. So, Moon Knight, Too Tough to Die, Volume 2. This is the one where kind of the viral page of Mr. Knight walking into the bar with no name, sitting down and kind of being like, all right, fuckers, listen up. I'm Moon Knight. I know where this place is. You know who I am. I'm not Spider-Man, so I'm not going to let you off easy. I'm not the Punisher, so I'm not going to kill you all without remorse. All right? I'm in the middle here. I'm in the middle. I'm insane. You know I'm insane. I kicked the Avengers' ass. And then he says Zodiac's name and leaves. Because he wants to make them panic so that he can track them. Also, I really love how this run breaks up the action with Moon Knight in therapy, talking to his therapist. I think that's really, really interesting. Really interesting. We also see 8-Ball calling one of his criminal contacts, who has something to do with Zodiac. Yeah, and you see the Midnight Mission crew kind of bust him up. They they take 8-Ball, who is a recurring character in this run. 8-Ball, that's right. I mean, if 8-Ball was a recurring character, that'd be about as likely as me farting in one of these videos. Anyway, 8-Ball gets interrogated. Moon Knight scares the shit out of him. But he and Soldier, who is there helping, don't hurt him. 8-Ball gives the name Manslaughter Marsdale, a friend that he was going to tip off, and then he gets the fuck out of there. They go, they fight Manslaughter. He seems to have some enhanced strength and stuff, but he can't feel pain. Not a character I'm super duper familiar with. We also see Moon Knight and Tigra go and see that Zodiac is killing even former acquaintances. It's also revealed that Tigra is spying on Moon Knight for the Avengers because they're scared shitless of him. Specifically, she's spying for Black Panther. Also, his therapist is like an Avengers mandated therapist. They're like, look, we get that you're mentally ill and Khonshu was manipulating you when you kicked our asses and everything. That being said, you gotta take responsibility on some level. You're getting an appointed therapist, and then they also put a plant on his team. Luckily, Tigra is actually his friend. They have worked together in the past, so... Oh well. Then we see Zodiac abduct his therapist. We also see Dr. Moon. Dr. Moon is, of course, Hunter's Moon, but wearing a suit. That's it. And this is when it's starting to creep into Devil's Reign. People are still coming to the mission for help. And I just want to say something real quick. Eventually, they do bring it up in the next run, or the next Moon Knight series. But I was already thinking it. And when they brought it up, I thought it was very good that they actually said it. The Midnight Mission, yeah, it's a religious place, kind of, sort of, in a weird way. Mark Moon Knight is pro Khonshu's mission, but he's not pro Khonshu. Khonshu's kind of a dick. Gods are dicks. That's just the way it am, fam. So, oddly enough, it is kind of a missionary place. They help people that come to them for help. In a way, it's also kind of a gang. They do break the law. They are incredibly violent. They operate at night, outside the purview of the law. But they're kind of old school mafiosos in a way. Kind of JoJo's Part 5 mafiosos, where it's like, yeah, we're kind of bad guys and we're kind of doing bad things, but it's for the good of the community. Real old school original mobsters before they got corrupt kind of thing, you know? They aren't taking money from the people they help. They aren't forcing those people to give them favors or anything, Godfather style. So that part isn't very mobbish, but they do have colors that they wear and gang symbols that are kind of their religious symbols. The moon, white. They have territory, and they don't like when their territory is encroached on by violent forces. They are a gang. They won't say it. Well, Soldier will say it, but most of them won't say it. Anyway, we see Hunter's Moon go to fight Scarlet Facinera, aka Stained Glass Starlet. She was kind of a vigilante, kind of a terrorist, and she's kind of coming back to life. People are praying to her. They're worshiping her. They saw her as a symbol, and now she's starting to become a god. It turns out gods can be created in this way. This is like kind of very... maybe it's kind of like the orcs in Warhammer, but there's also this like race of fish people in Dungeons and Dragons, and when they make up a god, the god becomes real. It's kind of like that. It's very interesting. Enough people have faith in a god, and it can make a god. That's very interesting lore here. Very interesting lore. So we have this kind of young goddess with incredible design, Stained Glass Scarlet, who's coming about. She's kind of a very retribution-y, revenge-y god. But hey, most gods are. Especially Khonshu, who is able to project a bit of power to help Hunter's Moon. Not his full force of power. Not really. But he is able to help. Because he's locked away in Asgard, so he can project himself a little. But every time he projects himself to help Hunter's Moon or to help Moon Knight, he gets weaker. And eventually, he's not going to be able to reach out and help them anymore. Because once again, he is locked up in Asgard. But it does imply that Stained Glass Starlet is Starlet. I keep saying Starlet like she's an actress. Stained Glass Scarlet is going to come back. That she's still a thing. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Anyhow, we do also have an epilogue where we have, who could it be? Someone escapes, an ex-Hydra assassin. Who could it be? Then we move into the Devil's Reign tie-in for Moon Knight. I've read this before this volume. I actually have it collected in multiple volumes because I have some Devil's Reign tie-in volumes I haven't reviewed yet that I will get to. Like I have the X-Men and Daredevil tie-ins and stuff. Though I have reviewed the full first Chip Zdarsky Daredevil run, and I have reviewed the Devil's Reign event. So if you want to watch any of those videos, they are all up. But we see 8-Ball talking big shit in prison. Really trying to look tough. He's like, Spider-Man, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Hulk, Sleepwalker. I've gone toe-to-toe with them all. Even died and been resurrected by the Hood. I'm more of a criminal mastermind type. Not super strong, but super smart. Took Moon Knight to put me in here. So, Rumi, what are you in for? And he's like, mask beef. And then 8-Ball goes, no way, what was your name on the street? Maybe we worked together. And he goes, Moon Knight. So Fisk has gotten Moon Knight in prison. So he's in his Mark Spector guise, which is kind of a guy. Is Mark Spector? Mark Spector is the original identity, I think. We're not seeing a lot of the other identities in his head, the other two, right now. But they will come back. I kind of like that they're giving us a little without them to explore Mark as a character, because the other two are kind of fully realized identities, and Mark is the one that has all the issues. So it's good that they're kind of examining him before going into it, because let me tell you, this run is amazing. The parts where Mark and other characters are sitting in therapy talking are often better than the actual superhero action. This is an incredible Moon Knight run that everybody should read. I really do. It's amazing. But yeah, 8-Ball, he's got no friends in prison. Everyone's picking on him. But Moon Knight seems to have his back. I guess just because he's their cellmate, and he can also get information from 8-Ball pretty easily. But Moon Knight kicks his way around prison to fight Man Mountain Marko. Because it turns out Moon Knight is only in prison because he wants to be. Man Mountain Marko's daughter is getting superpowers like his. He abandoned his family forever ago, knocked a woman up, left. But now that he knows his daughter is getting powers like him, he wants to bring her into crime fighting. He only cares about her now because he can use her. And Moon Knight's like, hey, fuckface, I am taking your prison fight club title right now. But that's all I'm going to take as long as you stay away from your ex and from your daughter. And Man Mountain Marko's like, fuck you, I'm going to go kill my ex, I'm going to make my daughter just like me. And then Moon Knight's like, well, I said if you didn't agree, I'd make sure you never saw them again one way or another. And he pops Man Mountain Marko's eyes out. Moon Knight's always been a bit more violent than some of these heroes. He is one of the street-level vigilantes, after all, who doesn't super shy away from killing. It's more of a when necessary kind of thing. A kill or be killed kind of hero. Not a I kill everybody like the Punisher, which is exhausting. But to be honest, the I don't kill anybody can also get kind of exhausting sometimes. Except for when it's Superman, because he's perfect and everybody loves him. And I don't want to see Spider-Man kill either, to be honest. But Moon Knight, he's kind of going back into being a mad dog in prison. He's like in solitary, chained up, covered in blood. And then he also has to go into this floor of an apartment building that should not exist. This apartment floor, it's very SCP X-Files-y. It is taking people into it and making them like it's mind slaves and forcing them to live in it, and it's this horrible labyrinth. Very interesting. And Mark kind of beats it the same way he beat the Psychic in Volume 1. It touches his mind, which has been changed by Khonshu. So it's got a god-touched mind, so a lot of psychic attacks don't work on him. They just don't. But he goes to Wong to get a favor. You know, comic Wong isn't nearly as cool as MCU Wong, but... yeah, so he goes back in, and it turns out this place is the House of Shadows, which is something Dr. Fate and friends have fought before and banished, but now it's back. But the House of Shadows isn't as malicious as people think. It's a house, after all. And what do houses want but to be lived in? But it's like a psychic haunted house. And guess who is without a house? As of the end of the last volume. Mark Spector. The Midnight Mission was blown up, after all. So now he has a new Midnight Mission. One that is a living psychic haunted house. Alright, John Constantine, that's fucking awesome. So the Midnight Mission is now better defended than probably any building in New York. But then we find out that the escaped convict from before was Rutherford Winter, one of Hydra's best assassins, who shows up to the Midnight Mission to fight Moon Knight, because he thinks Moon Knight has taken his therapist. His therapist happens to be the same therapist as Moon Knight. She's a therapist that specializes in, like, masked criminals and heroes and stuff. So, Moon Knight wasn't able to figure it out. But it turns out his therapist is a fake. She's been replaced by the Wax Man, which we as the audience knew because we saw her get abducted, sort of, but we didn't know that her replacement was the Wax Man. I actually didn't know who the Wax Man was. He's basically a Clayface. He's basically Clayface. Moon Knight traps him in concrete and buries him under a building after he gets the information out of him. Drives him absolutely insane. But then he and everyone from the Midnight Mission, including Winter, who's trying to become a better man because he is a victim of brainwashing, they fight Jigsaw, the Punisher villain, you know, and his therapist does have to stop him from doing some serious violence, but it turns out this was all part of Zodiac's plan to lead him away from the Midnight Mission so that they could take it. But Zodiac's like, this Midnight Mission, I don't really super want to go into it, but bombs are a thing. So Mark calls upon Khonshu, and it's like, you protect the travelers at night. I know I'm in New Jersey right now, but I have to get back to my Midnight Mission. Can you get me there? Can you give me a short route to it? Khonshu's like, yeah. There's going to be a huge price later, though. And Mark is like, sure, that's fine. I'll pay it. I don't care what it is. And so he lets Mark run through basically the halls of the dead. So in an effort to stall Zodiac, Soldier dresses up as Mr. Knight. And I just want to go ahead and say, I love the way that Moon Knight's clothing is drawn in this book. The art really makes it look like it's shining, even in a 2D image, which is very impressive. And there's a lot of color in this book. A lot of times books like this don't have a ton of color. This book has a ton of color that you wouldn't expect. It's all in the background. But it's there. So they have Zodiac surprised, but not fully fooled. It doesn't quite work. So he goes to shoot Soldier. Someone jumps in the way. A vampire. So the bullet doesn't super hurt her. I mean, she feels it, but she's fine. Goes straight through her and into Soldier. It's not great. Oof. Not great at all. Moon Knight shows up to fight Zodiac, but Zodiac has a whole team with him of villains. Moon Knight can't stand up to that alone. Good thing he's not alone. A bunch of zombie fists of Khonshu follow him through the portal Khonshu made him, and they all fight together, freeing Hunter's Moon and kicking serious effing ass. You even get to see Moon Knight chainsaw some people. It's kind of wild. And he is fully planning on killing Zodiac. Even Reese, the vampire we spoke of earlier, and one of the best characters in this book. She's a brand new character, debuted in the first volume. She was part of the vampire pyramid scheme. She was kind of forcibly turned into a vampire. And she and some other vampires hadn't done anything wrong. So Moon Knight was like, well, I can't punish them. They haven't done anything wrong. So he hired her. She was doing night school because she's a vampire now. She's like 19. And she kind of works the front desk at the Midnight Mission. Because, I mean, she's up all night anyway, right? Anyway, Reese wants to kill Zodiac for what he's done to Soldier. And Moon Knight doesn't let her. She's like, what, you think I'm going to become like him, Spider-Man? Which is something Spider-Man would say, and Moon Knight's like, no, even worse. I think you'll become like me. And so Moon Knight is strangling Zodiac, going to kill him. Reese is friggin' watching. And then someone jumps in. Stephen Grant, one of the other personalities. How interesting. So now the personalities are back. Yes. Very cool. And that is it for Volume 2. So what are my final thoughts on Moon Knight Volume 2, Too Tough to Die, from the 2021 to 2023 Moon Knight run? It's incredible. It's honestly great. They do defeat Zodiac, which is nice. He'll still come back in later volumes, but he's really the main villain of this whole thing, but he's not the final villain, if that makes sense. Like, he'll appear with the other stuff and whatnot, but he's pretty cool. He's pretty cool. This is working really great. So I like that this Moon Knight run, I think, is very well built. It's built in a way that really looks at the psychology of each and every character, but it's also a book about redemption. It's a book about becoming better. It's dark, yes, but there is hope to it. This is a character who literally shines, by the way. He should have some hope to him. He's a Dark Avenger. Yes, a Dark Protector. Of course. But he's only hurting people that deserve it. He is showing a lot of mercy when it's called for. He is helping his community, and he's trying to become better himself, both physically and mentally. And it's really interesting to watch. This status quo change for Moon Knight is very interesting because he's lost most of his access to his god, so he's not quite as powerful. He's still as dangerous, but not as powerful, if that makes sense. But also, in the last volume, Zodiac took all his money. You know, Batman Eternal style, Joker War style. So he's kind of been paying Reese and Soldier in an unknown way, which we'll find out, I think, in Volume 3. I think is where you find that out. I don't think it's Volume 4. I think it's Volume 3. We find out how he's paying them. Also, kind of a mobstery way. I maintain that this is a gang, and I'm not the only one that sees it. Soldier does bring that up in a future volume. But yes, that was very good. I cannot wait to review Volume 3. So that is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.